Thank you ever so much, everybody, for joining us this afternoon for the AI CDP webinar, Cashflow Certainty in Uncertain Times. I'm delighted to be welcomed this afternoon by Lee Allen from Corcentric, and we'll be introducing Lee very shortly to go through what he's going to share this afternoon. We hope you're well, and this is one of the AI CDP webinars that we have planned this year to bring some key themes to credit professionals that we feel is going to be quite important as the market changes. So we're delighted to have Lee with us. There's going to be two areas of discussion for today. Lee's obviously going to be covering how to achieve your cash flow KPIs in 2022 with certainty. And then what we'd like to do is, you may have seen recently, Bill Dunlop, our president, launched an article on our website and also on social media about the evolution of the products and support for the credit and collection operations. We'd really like some feedback from you, so I will be covering this after Lee's presentation. And then for those of you who are not already AI CDP members, I will be going through some of the benefits that you can find and why you should become a member in 2022. So Lee, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you. So Lee Allen, Senior VP for the EMEA North region for Corcentric. So Lee, over to you.
Thanks, Claire. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining today, all of you that are retired or unretired or undecided in between. I'm just going to check I've got control of the deck here, and I'm going to kill my video for you on the pretense of saving bandwidth, but actually it's just to stop you being distracted by my face in the corner of your screen as we go through the deck. So my name's Lee Allen. I'm Senior Vice President for Northern EMEA at Corcentric. And today, my job is to talk to you about cash flow certainty, particularly in uncertain times. And I think we've recently, last 3, 4, 5 years, perhaps, we've all seen some unprecedented levels of uncertainty, be that speculation around Brexit and then Brexit itself, then of course COVID, and currently the situation in Ukraine. These events can make it more challenging to operate and to keep things on an even keel. I was reading this morning that the average DSO in Europe is now at 98 days. And I don't think it's been quite so high for quite some time. So my job today is really to illustrate a very practical idea, a solution we have on how your DSO can be fixed. So your cash flow becomes predictable, dependable, and guaranteed. But to begin with, just by way of context and advertising, I do need to provide you a little bit of background on my company, Corcentric. So Corcentric was started in the US in the mid-90s. Originally, it was founded as a group purchasing organization, very much focused on automotive companies. And GPOs are not necessarily unique, but what was unique about Corcentric is that the service was underpinned by technology. So the aim really was to help companies reduce their cost of doing business, to reduce the friction, and that would then allow them to invest in sustainable growth. And so really that aim and the focus on technology, that does remain part of the DNA of the business today. So we're able to provide a global solution. We're supported by probably north of 550 employees now, based in 15 different offices worldwide. The UK office is based in London. That's where I'm usually based, and I have responsibility for the northern part of EMEA. So the further south you travel, the sunnier and nicer the weather, the less likely it falls into my jurisdiction. Like most people, I'm not office based at the moment. For the last 2 years, I've been working from home. So I'm currently calling you from my house in Kent. We connect currently about 2.25 million businesses, and that's on behalf of our 2,500 active customers. And those customers entrust 20 million transactions per annum to the services that we provide, and the total value of those is just north of $100 billion. So those clients, they cover a pretty wide range of industry sectors. There's not really a vertical market where we're more prevalent or more suited. I think that's because there's a pretty universal nature to the functions and challenges within finance. Having said that, that broad range and the variety within our client base does mean we're pretty experienced in accommodating a lot of those sort of specific nuances that a business may have, or perhaps even the individuals within those business, the nuances and practices that they might have. So of course, these are the logos that have brand recognition, but we work with businesses of all types and sizes, and they can be structured in many different ways. So for instance, ITV, that is a purely UK business, whereas a company like Unisys, we're supporting them on a global basis. VF, which is a company we all know, and a company behind exciting brands such as North Face and Timberland. They obviously operate a shared service centre where they've consolidated the functions for many business units throughout Europe into a single location. So we're pretty used to working with all types of organisations. We're also pretty used to working with all kinds of systems, from legacy. There's some AS400s in that mix there, all the way through to ERPs like SAP and Oracle. And they can be consolidated, they can be disparate, they can be simple, and they can be complex, and they can be at various stages of transformation. So I think it's fairly common for most people to be upgrading, uprating, increasing or changing ERP. Seems to be a perennial process for most companies. So what is it we do? Well, Corcentric really it's got quite a broad range of solutions, and they're designed to help companies purchase, pay, and get paid. And underpinning that is really three components to the offering. The first of which, as I said before, is technology. So technology underpins all of the servicing provided by the business. And within the technology, there are three distinct platforms. The first of which sits inside source to pay. So we have solutions in sourcing, supplier and contract management, all the way through to sort of automated AP, PO matching, anything really that's involved in helping manage the accounts payable side of the house. Of course, the flip side to that, and the one that AICDP members would be more interested in, is the order to cash solutions. So we have systems related to the management of the accounts receivable process, and that includes things like electronic invoicing, bill presentment, and collection. Sitting in between those two solutions, the third pillar is payments. And payments really runs through everything and connects the two disparate sides. The second component to the service is actually advisory. So we have a specialist team of business analysts, and they're able to evaluate financial data on behalf of our clients, and then they can benchmark that against the aggregated client experience. So we're able to provide insight into best practice. And I think that human component, the people and data advisory, is essential in order to understand what technology should be deployed where and when and how. It's something that we find out helps our clients make the invisible visible. So sometimes having a third party look at things from a different perspective illustrates things you can't see inside your own business, just for the fact that you're too close to it. The third component that we provide is finance itself. So we provide funding which helps with working capital management. So that could be by extending DPO, or as we're going to talk about today, how you reduce your DSO. Both of those activities are actually in service of a mutual benefit, which is to sort of identify where the cash is locked inside the cash conversion cycle, bring that to the bottom line, and help improve the working capital to unlock that. So really what Corcentric is, it's a blend of technology, of people, and of finance that delivers a unique and unfair advantage to our clients because it looks at the entire financial portfolio of our client base. So today we're going to focus on the managed accounts receivable, the DSO side of the equation. I thought it'd be useful really to begin with a workflow walkthrough of what it is. This will really explain what it does, and then we can go on to sort of how it works and why people use it. So it really begins with our client, who is the supplier, or more specifically, actually, it starts with their ERP system. And what that does is it needs to generate a data file of the invoices that need to be communicated to the buyer. And that data is sent to an EIPP portal, which Corcentric build, configure, and provide in the cloud on behalf of the supplier. This portal is buyer-facing, so it is branded as though it's the suppliers. The first thing we do when we receive the invoice data, we need to hand it off to a second system, an internal system called Corcentric, and that performs your basic validation within the system against established business rules. So this would be the sort of first point of contact between the two businesses, where if you try to communicate an invoice to a buyer that breaks the established rules, we may need to discuss that with you on the way through. Assuming it passes validation, we create an invoice and we will then deliver that invoice to your customer. Now, the key component in this managed service at this stage is we then settle the invoice back to the supplier. So we pay the invoice. So the moment the invoice is validated for distribution to the customer, to the buyer, it is settled back to the supplier. That's how we generate the certainty of the DSO. From there, there's a number of things that the customer is going to do. The one that everybody hopes is that they're just going to pay their invoice. They can do that inside the portal itself. Seems I've lost control of the slides.
Should be back now, Lee.
Thank you. Of course, if they don't pay that, then what they may choose to do is to dispute the invoice. They can raise. It's still not working, I'm afraid, Claire. You'll have to click on my behalf, I think. The dispute can be raised inside the portal, but the key thing is that the dispute management is now handled by the Corcentric team. So we're fully managing the receivable after the invoice has been sent and been settled back to the supplier. Claire, if you could click the next one for me. Of course, if they don't pay or dispute, then we need to make a collections effort. Again, that is done by the Corcentric team on behalf of the supplier, at which point, of course, we are looking for settlement of the invoice back to Corcentric. So it's in our interest to be good within that collection process. And then finally on this slide, Claire, next one. It's just the onboarding process. So the onboarding of the customer into the program is all handled within this workflow, automatically processed through the EIPP portal itself. Okay, I seem to have control again. I don't know what happened there. So that's how it works, but probably more importantly is why do people like it? Why do people use it? What does it achieve? And really with any business process, particularly around getting paid for the services you provide, you're typically putting something between you, the supplier, and your customer, the buyer. Again, I've lost control. There we go. And that would be a combination of people, process, and technology. But as I said at the beginning, what we're providing at Corcentric is something in addition. In order to guarantee the result, we're also providing the funding. I think what it is there's a long lag between me pressing and it appearing. So by providing the people, the process, the technology, and the funding, then the benefit to the supplier to begin with is the immediate reduction in the DSO. So every invoice will be paid by Corcentric. This is a full ledger solution. It's not invoice or customer specific. We will fund 100% of the ledger. Now, of course, it can be applied to sub-ledgers as well. That could be based on product or territory or any other kind of segmentation that you have as a value. And that's often how clients start with this process. They use a segmented proof of concept. But we will pay to a fixed DSO. It can be to your existing terms, or we can accelerate it and pay it faster. And the service completely de-risks the collection and the credit risk process because we're providing this service on a non-recourse basis. So we will take the full ledger and we will fund 100% of it, and that includes the good, the bad, and the indifferent. So that means there's no more late payments, there's no more bad debts, and there is no more write-offs. Our team typically, if you could just press the next one for me, typically used to augment rather than replace your own team. And really the concept is to allow your existing FTEs to be deployed in a more focused way where they can support the growth of the business. One of the benefits we're seeing that was an unknown benefit is around recruitment. So as businesses expand and grow, recruitment is an ongoing requirement and is becoming increasingly challenging. It seems to be a candidate's market. That's what everyone's telling us. And so trying to find the right caliber and the right quality and the right quantity to fulfill that growth has become a problem for a lot of companies. So this takes that away because we'll be providing that component. Next benefit is really just simplifying the cash application process. Obviously, it becomes pretty streamlined because there's going to be a single consolidated payment and a remittance. Corcentric will pay you for your invoices, so we will pay you in a consistent way and notify you of the same. So we will create a system-friendly format that you can automatically ingest into your systems with the payment detail. The service is provided as a business model as a service. So what that means is there's no capital outlay. You don't need to make investment in technology or infrastructure. No systems need to be updated or changed. It also means that the service we provide continually evolves with the market and the market requirement. because it's very much within our business model to develop the technology, keep it in line with requirement and expectation. And lastly, one of the reasons people use it is we provide a best-in-class experience for both our customers, but also their buyers as well. The white glove partnership is really part of the augmenting your team philosophy, in that we are not trying to replicate or improve your current standard operating procedures. We are going to develop from there. So the rhythm and the tempo and the tone of voice with which you use to speak to your customer is what we will learn and what we will implement. I think in a previous guise, I worked in a company that factored some of its invoices. And of course, when you sell the invoice, you also lose the right to the communication between you and your customer. That factor company will speak to them in any way that they seem fit to get paid. And that's very much something we set out to avoid, because we're very aware of the value of the supplier-buyer relationship. That said, we have been asked on occasion to be the bad cop, right? To make the difficult call and say the difficult words. So there is that opportunity within the system, but actually the desired outcome is to be an extension of the way you currently do business. All of these benefits can be classified in one of two ways. There are those that are measurable, by which I mean we can calculate a cash figure for the value of that specific benefit. And there's also those where we can't as well. That's not to say they don't have a benefit in real terms. It's just that it's not easy to put a metric around it that makes it tangible, that makes it presentable to a CFO. We're going to look at both, but to begin with, we'll start with those that are measurable, because they will form the basis of your business case. So the first of 8 measurable benefits is around the DSO, okay? The working capital. So higher DSO means your working capital is stuck inside your cash conversion cycle. Lowering the DSO puts cash on the balance sheet, and there is a way to calculate what the value of that is. Next thing we can calculate is the comparative cost of borrowing those funds. So that will be based on a company's WACC. That has an established metric that we can use to put a value to it. The third thing is the cost of insuring that receivable. So this is a non-recourse agreement, so that insurance is no longer necessary. A lot of people take credit insurance to guarantee or to protect against non-paying clients. Again, there are established industry-wide rates we can use to drop into this and calculate the value of that benefit. The last measurable on this slide is bad debt. What is the cost of customer defaults, debt recovery action? Again, we can calculate that. We will look at your historical write-offs and then use that against our industry knowledge to put a figure to it. Next slide, please, Claire. Continuing with the measurable benefits, there is a cost to process and allocate payments that come into your business. AP automation is part of the broader Corcentric service. So we see a lot of examples of labor-intensive processes where people are opening correspondence or scanning in documents or checks, not so much these days. Rekeying data is still a thing, and updating systems. With a single consolidated payment and remittance advice in a system-friendly format, that goes away. We can figure out what that costs. There is obviously an FTE value to the staff that are employed to do these tasks. And I do believe that this is the expense there is more about redeploying resource or sustaining growth without adding resource. Either way, yeah, that's a quantifiable cost. Next measurable, it is the cost to produce and send an invoice, particularly as that needs to be sent via multiple channels. The the big growth area in invoice distribution is e-invoicing. And we're finding a lot of companies are rekeying their invoices into their buyers' web portals. So it's labor intensive, it's time consuming, it's actually fraught with error of rekeying problems. So there is a cost to all of that. We can measure that, we understand that very well. Because we are going to distribute the invoice, that becomes our cost. So there is a genuine, tangible saving that can be made there. And lastly, in terms of measurable value, is revenue impact on the EBITDA through growth. So we can demonstrate that growth supported by both new customer acquisition, but also retention and increased sales with your existing customer base, because you have reduced discrepancies, you have reduced disputes, and you have increased credit limits. That's all stuff we can put a value on. So let me show an example of what that actually looks like. So this is a genuine business case. It's lifted from a genuine client. I'm allowed to share their data as long as I protect their anonymity. And what you're seeing here, DSO was accelerated by 42 days. So we were paying them on day 15. And the sales of the value of the ledger was worth £100 million per annum. So taking all of those 8 components and running it through the financial analysis, this is what the value looks like. And there's a total value of £13.7 million of measurable benefits unlocked by moving that ledger to the managed AR program provided by Corcentric. Now, typically when I show people this slide, it generates 2 immediate questions. How is that calculated? And what does this all cost? So Claire, if you could scroll forward one. So this illustration, it is based on real client data. And these are the metrics that sat behind those figures. Now, obviously, every situation is different. And that's where the advisory part of the service comes in. So our business analyst working with your data will be able to create a business case which is specific to your situation and based on your metrics. So a big example of that, sometimes people don't use credit insurance or they don't use it in certain markets. And that's not a problem. We will accurately reflect the cost of that inside the business case, in which case, the cost would be 0. The business case is also going to include our pricing. So that gives you then the full oversight and the return on investment. Claire, if you could scroll through a couple of bullets for me. Yeah. And so the pricing, just go back one, sorry. Pricing's calculated on a number of different factors, right? So it can be things like the level of historical bad debt, the volume and value of invoices, number of active customers, where they're based, the current DSO, the required acceleration, etc., and so forth. And all of those values are sliders. So they're variables that can be adjusted in collaboration with you to create the right balance and the right result. Thank you. We can go to the next one. So I said there's value beyond the ones we can put a price to and we can fold into the business case. And these are the ones that are maybe less easy to put a tangible cash figure to, something that a CFO is going to understand and enjoy. But nevertheless, they are still a benefit. They're included here for completeness. I mean, I don't know what the cost saving for reducing your IT burden is. What is the opportunity cost of what they should be working on if they're not integrating with the invoice programs? How do you put a value on better forecasting? Someone I was talking to the other day has a head office in the US and they keep asking, what's the forecast for next month? What's the forecast for next quarter? And it's driven by so many factors beyond the control of the credit team that it's slightly an unfair question. With this program, you can say, well, for the next quarter and the quarter after that and the quarter after that, DSO will be 15 days, absolutely with certainty. Now, I don't know how you put a value on that. I don't know how you put a cash figure on it, but it exists. Same for scalability. What about recruitment? What about HR costs? And so on and so forth. Legal costs, onboarding. There is a number of benefits by outsourcing the pain to Corcentric is going to solve for you. They're all benefits that we provide. They're all difficult to measure in terms of value. Certainly a value that would make sense to your CFO if you're presenting it as a business case. You can go forward now, Claire. So that's really the end of the presentation, maybe the start of the conversation. So hopefully I've shown that DSO can be fixed, your cash flow can be guaranteed. Hopefully I've also highlighted those additional benefits that you may not have previously considered. There is 3 points I'd like to leave you with. You can provide cash flow certainty through a blend of business process outsourcing and funding. And it's all done on a commercially viable basis. So it makes sense from a business case point of view. I'm happy to discuss this in more detail with anybody that wants to contact me by any of the means on screen. And obviously, if there's any questions in the chat box now, I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Lee. If anyone would like to ask a question, if you can use the Q&A box, Lee and I both can see that, so we will make sure that your questions get answered. Just while we wait for those to come through, Lee, thank you very much for that presentation. It was really, really informative. I think you've touched on it, but could you just sort of explain a bit further about how it differs from factoring?
Yeah, and I think that's a common question, or maybe a common concern for people, because my experience of factoring is that you lose the right to the tone of voice of the conversation with the buyer when you factor the invoice, and sometimes way people collect payment isn't conducive to building an ongoing working relationship with the buyer. And so we set out very deliberately with this program to not be that, okay? And what our clients are finding is that they're actually getting an acceleration in sales because it's easier to do business with, it's easier to place orders, credit limits then rise because there's less bad debt and so forth. And that starts with the supplier. So part of the implementation process is cultural. We try to understand the cultural, historical tone of voice, rhythm and cadence that is used when addressing a buyer. And that's what we try to implement, we try and replicate. So we're very sort of attuned and very sensitive to how people speak to their customer. I think that's one of the main, I know it's a bit of a soft benefit. The other one is purely just the level of funding. So again, my experience with factoring is it's selective. So there are certain accounts, certain locations, even certain invoices that the factor doesn't want to get involved in. This is a full ledger, 100% funding, and as I said before, there's definitely yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm just reading the comment there. I'm not saying that factoring doesn't work. I'm just saying that a concern that people have is how the factor speaks to the customer, and we don't provide that. It's 100%, and it's very difficult to have a conversation with someone typing while I'm speaking. But I think if you want to drop me an email, I'm happy to take that with you further.
Perfect. Thank you, Lee. We've also got another question. How are costs calculated and how are the credit limits set and risks managed?
Yeah, so there's two sides to the credit limit question. So we obviously have our own process. Yeah, it's not a sort of secret sauce there. It'd be very similar to how you establish your own credit lines. We will run our own independent evaluation of the customers to see what it comes out at. And then we like to compare that against what your current rate is. And then we'll have a meaningful discussion if there's a significant variance there. What we're finding is that we tend to have a slightly higher appetite for risk than maybe most of our clients do, but it's a two-step process. What's our evaluation and how does that compare to yours? And then we discuss the difference and agree mutually what the correct limit's going to be. Sometimes there's information that the supplier has that we're not privy to, your long-standing working relationship or insight into the circumstances there. So we never impose our limit. We're always open to have that discussion with the supplier to make sure it's right. Really, we're trying to underpin growth within the supplier.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Lee. Is there any further questions that anyone would like answering before we move on? If you do have any questions that you feel that you would like answering, if you do pop them in the Q&A section, both Lee and I can see that, and we can come straight back to you. We've just had another one pop in about costs.
Yeah, so the costs are going to be per case basis, so they're very individual. They're driven by, like I said before, location of your customer base, historical bad debt, the volume and value, the volume of customers, because that has an impact on the collection effort. So there's lots of different variables in there. And what we do is we ask for a set of data from yourselves. Then our business analyst will analyze that. They will then put together a unique plan that says, this is what we think we can generate in terms of a benefit, and this is what we think we need to charge you in order to do it properly. And as long as the benefit is greater than the charge, then you've got your business case.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Lee. It's been really, really informative this afternoon. So thank you, really is appreciated. And if anyone does have any questions for Lee that they'd like to ask outside of this webinar, Lee's details are on the screen, and we will be sending copies out of the presentation after the event. So you will get a copy of this by being on the call today. So thank you very much. We've just got, I can't see it, I don't know whether you can, Lee. We've just had someone say that they've put a question in the chat facility. Can you see the chat? Because I'm sharing my screen, it's not allowing me.
1 second. Is that from Richard?
It is, yes.
Have a look. Yeah, in the chat, yeah. Hi, Richard. Yeah, so we're actually underwriting directly ourselves through our funding, and the question on 100%, yeah. So there's no dilution, no retention. It's 100%. Yes, we operate in Ireland, Declan.
Thank you. Also, are supplies, how are supplies suspended or stop applied?
So we never do that unilaterally, and that would be a replication of existing credit policy within the supplier. So, part of what I was talking about of the implementation process and understanding the current operating procedure, that's what we look to adopt. So this is, it really is an extension of your team rather than any kind of diktat from us. So if you have a policy on how you stop accounts, we replicate it. We don't insist on doing anything different. And frankly, the policies of the client have been built up and operate over many years based on a much deeper understanding of their customer base than we could ever hope to achieve. So we follow that lead.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Lee. And like I say, Lee's contact details are on screen. So if you do want to ask him any further questions, and we will be sending a copy of these slides out. So if you miss them, don't worry, you will be getting a copy. Thank you very much, Lee.
My pleasure. Thank you.
you. I'm now just going to take a few minutes to talk to you a few initiatives that the AI CDP has currently been working on, and if you're not a member already, then how you can benefit from our membership. So for those of you that are members, you may have seen on the website and you may have seen on social media that Bill Dunlop has produced an article about the evolution of products within the credit and collections operations sphere. And he's been talking about his game changers. So these might not necessarily be the first products to market or services to market, but actually it's been through his experience that have delivered the best presentation, that has been easy to understand, easy to adopt. And he's given sort of 4 very, very detailed overviews of sort of collections workbench, electronic invoicing, fast financing and managed AR. But we wondered, we want your voice, we want your feedback. So Bill is wanting to take this further and not only enhance this article to get more of a credit professional's viewpoint on what you feel the evolution of products and support services are for credit and collections, but also what feedback you can give on how you found the implementation, what the cost savings are, what the benefit has been to your organization. So I've popped Bill's details on the screen, and we really, really would like your feedback. So you can email it to him. Bill would also welcome a conversation with you. You can, a link to all of this documentation is on the website. So if you go to AICDP.global, you will see this on the website so you can read the full article. But we really, really would value your feedback. The reason being as well, we're looking to develop a range of solutions, a range of webinars, a range of training and events for AI CDP members for this year and into next year. And it would really, really help us to shape that so that we're delivering what you're looking for or what you need. So thank you for listening to that, but it really is important that we get your feedback on that initiative. So I know there's a couple of you on the call that aren't already members of AI CDP, so I'm just going to take literally a few minutes just to talk about some of the benefits. So AI CDP was formed in 2014, and a group of credit directors got together and could see that there was support needed within the industry to promote what we call the DNA of a credit professional. So it was looking at the role that the credit professionals performed. How could we enhance that? How could we support them, whether they were moving into international companies, they were transacting overseas, they were looking to climb the career ladder. So AI CDP was formed to provide that structure, to provide that community. I'm delighted to announce that we've just gone over our 500 members, and we are growing. Like I say, I think we hit the 500 last week, so it was quite an important milestone for us. And what's important is those 500 members are not just UK based, but they're in Ireland, they're in Europe, they're in America. We've got members in Australia. So we really are a global audience, and we do want to grow that. Certainly India is proving a very popular area for members at the moment, but so is Germany, France, Poland, and also Norway and other areas. So it really is proving quite popular at the moment, and it's something that we are looking to put more webinars, more events, both in country and online, in to support the credit community as a whole. One of the things that we are really, really passionate about is all of our corporate partners who support AI CDP. Like Lee has been on the call today, he's sharing his knowledge, and this is what we look for in all of our, whether it be a member, whether it be a corporate partner, is that sharing of knowledge, which again is why I've asked you your feedback on the article and the evolution of products and services, because we really do listen, but also with that springboard. So if somebody does have a question that they need answering, they know that they can turn to anyone within the community. And how they can do that is we have an online portal on our website. Once you become a member, And we have social media accounts, which again, you can get those questions asked by experts in their field very, very quickly. Membership is currently free. It's well worth joining. Like I say, there's not just the webinars that you're on today, there is face-to-face meetings, but there's also a number of other benefits for you, which is obviously the community, like I've said, 500 strong. We have a number of training services, so this could be on cash collection, it could be on other skills that you need for your team, such as behavioural dynamics. And certainly with what we've experienced over the past 2 years is the whole team dynamic has changed. So behavioural dynamics is certainly proving quite popular at the moment. We also do a number of events and networking opportunities, whether that be at face-to-face meetings or whether we will have networking online as well, to try and put the credit community together. We've got Declan on the call today, I can see. So Declan heads up our AI CDP education program, and we offer a number, there's two courses running at the moment for credit professionals, so you can get your team the skills that they need as we face the challenges. And if anyone would like any more information on the education service, if they can drop me just drop me a note in the chat, I will certainly come back to you after this call. We've just held the graduation last month in Dublin for those that have just completed part of have completed their diploma, which was a fantastic event, and it was well attended with their families, the graduates themselves, AI CDP representatives, and everyone was capped and gowned, and it was a very, very well attended event. So if you do have any education, you require any education information, then please let us know. And the webinar program, we are looking at enhancing the webinar program so that every month or two there will be webinars run by AI CDP and our corporate partners and other keynote speakers that we bring in. You may have seen some of our webinars towards the back end of last year where we had journalists, we had economists, and that's something that we are enhancing currently. So if you would like to become a member of AICDP, if you just drop a note in the chat, or if you visit AICDP.global, there is a whole section on membership and a form there for you to complete. And finally, I would just like to say a big thank you to all of our corporate partners and affiliates who make AICDP the organisation it is and support AICDP and allow us to bring these events and keep the membership free for you. So a real big thank you to those companies that are listed on screen. It is very, very much appreciated. So thank you very much. And finally, there's one other thing that I would like to bring to your attention. So in October, AICDP is delighted to support the World Congress that's happening, World Credit Congress, which is happening in Dublin at the Aviva Stadium. And again, we've got Declan on the call today, so if anyone does want any further information. So that's happening on the 11th to the 12th of October. It's a 2-day conference with expert speakers, product demonstrations. There'll be a number of workshops, a number of networking opportunities, and there's going to be 2 main themes for the event. So that's credit management and technology and credit. Now, for those of you that are AICDP members, and if you're not, I would very recommend you do so on the website. Declan has very kindly on the website put an offer out where if you are an AICDP member and register with the link that's on the AICDP member portal, it will give you a 20% off discount of the price of your ticket. So there is, it's definitely worth taking a look at that. I'm looking forward to that conference, and I know a lot of our members are already starting to talk about what the conference is going to offer them and what they're looking forward to. And certainly meeting and supporting each other is going to be high up on that agenda. So AICDP will be sharing a lot more information about the World Credit Congress. So if you do want to put that in your diary already, that's the 11th and 12th of October in Dublin. So thank you very much. And that's everything. So if you do have any questions, my contact details are on the screen. I'm more than happy to answer anything that if you would like any further information on AI CDP. I would like to take another opportunity to thank Lee Allen today for sharing his presentation with us and the information. I found it really useful. I hope you did. And we'd just like to wish you a happy afternoon and hope to see you soon on a future AI CDP event.